right, good morning, everyone. My name is George Nikic. I'm the BCAK Member Services Coordinator. Thank you all for joining us this morning for the Professional Development Webinar, How Kinesiologists Can Use Pathverse to Create Educational Material, Receive Feedback, and Track and Use Relevant Client Data. The session will be presented by Amanda Wilms, a kinesiology master's degree graduate from the University of Victoria, and Henry La, the co-founder of Pathverse. A couple of housekeeping notes. So this meeting is being recorded and registrants will receive a link to the recording within a week of today. If you have any questions, and we do encourage everyone to ask questions if they have any, please ask them in the chat. If there is time, questions will be answered during the session. Otherwise, we'll ask Amanda and Henry to review unanswered questions in the chat and provide answers to go out with the recording. The meeting will end promptly at 9:45 as a number of our members and staff will be attending the next meeting, which is the BCAK annual general meeting at 10 a.m. So we do have to end at 9:45 to get everyone over there in time. And that is about it. So I'll hand it over to Amanda and she can begin.
Awesome. Thank you so much, George, for that introduction. I think I'm getting a little bit of double audio in there from my phone that I'll be showing you later on, so it should be fixed now. So once again, any questions can go into the Q&A section of the Zoom chat, and we'll head over to those questions later on today if we have time. So today, Henry and I will be introducing Pathverse. If some of you were here last year, I'm really excited for you to see how we've evolved over the past year. And if not, we're super excited to share with you for the first time a platform for kinesiologists to deliver scalable health promotion programs to your clients. So we have 3 learning objectives set out for today. The first is to discuss ways that mobile health technology, or Mhealth technology, can promote health and well-being for your clients. The second is to discuss how kinesiologists can use Pathverse to complement your practice. And then with that, we'll go into some features that we have, what we're about to be creating, and if we have time at the end to discuss what features you're already using. And last, we'll demonstrate both the Pathverse admin portal, which is a website, and the Pathverse client or user app, which you'll see on our phones later today. So first we'll get into a bit more of who we are. So Henry, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah. So hi everyone, my name is Henry and I've been working on this project since the beginning. And I'll be here today to answer some of your technical questions and also give everyone a little bit of information about how we handle security on our platform.
Thank you. And my name is Amanda. As George mentioned, my background is all in kinesiology, and now I'm working with Pathverse in sort of a growth and marketing role to share this platform with everyone. I was able to use Pathverse in my master's degree to create an 8-week exercise and heart health program to prevent hypertension. So I am very familiar with the ins and outs, and I'm a super big advocate for how awesome this platform is. So a little bit about our background again. So we're born out of a research lab at the University of Victoria, where we're an interdisciplinary team of both the tech side, so some computer science software devs, and then the health researchers and content specialists. So my supervisor, who now is also working on this project, Dr. Sam Liu, helped co-found Pathverse as well. And then we're also working with some other researchers at UVic and at the institutions and industries listed across the bottom of the screen there. To get into a little bit of the background and why we found this space for Pathverse is Mhealth, or mobile health trends, are continuing to be dominated by fitness, lifestyle, nutrition, and disease management. So by 2025, we're expected to see over 60% of the market being taken up by these domains in our app stores. So we created Pathverse to help leverage this uptick in mobile health content delivery in order for it to become accessible for kinesiologists, researchers, and all those who would benefit from an easier, more efficient solution to creating these mobile health delivery services. In the literature, I'll just touch on one recent systematic review that looked at over 20,000 participants in over 100 studies. In every single study, looking across different exercise outcome measures, it showed that Mhealth interventions relative to control were able to significantly increase physical activity. So that's looking at things like steps, moderate to vigorous physical activity, and then general total physical activity. We saw those significant increases in physical activity. Future recommendations from this review was to continue to explore the benefits of Mhealth on physical activity levels long-term. So by creating these sort of solutions to implement more mobile health into this space, we're able to further track these changes over time. We'll dive now into our first learning objective of the day. So we'll discuss ways to use Mhealth technology to promote health and well-being for your clients. So we've taken the trends of Mhealth apps in your practice and sort of grouped them into these 4 categories. So the first would be something along the lines of a personal intervention program. So if you think like exercise tutorial videos catered to each of your demographic, or if you have that on a client by client basis. The second is self-monitoring apps. So what comes to mind first for me is something like Fitbit, where you can see those steps or those minutes and intensities right there on your screen, where your client or participant has that for them to look at any given time. The next type of app sort of shifts away from that physical activity or exercise lens and looks more at surveys. So if you're giving, say, a virtual PAR-Q questionnaire or something along those lines of a check-in when you're remote. And then taking that sort of survey feature the next step forward and looking at virtual support. So whether that's within a forum discussion between clients or users, or if you're having that kin to client communication through a mobile app. So now you're probably wondering, why Pathverse? So we built apps like this for kinesiologists who don't have that coding experience. I know from my background in kinesiology, I definitely have the research skills to go out and stay on top of the research and know what's best. But in terms of actually delivering it in a way that's accessible, wasn't quite in my wheelhouse. So that's sort of who we designed Pathverse for. We also want to help improve engagement with your clients. So whether that's through that chat feature, being able to talk remotely, access your clients when they need it the most is super important, as well as being able to collect sort of insights and see dashboards of how your client is doing when you're not with them in clinic and those types of scenarios. We also want to empower the user or the client or the patient to track their progress. So embedding different self-monitoring techniques and goal setting within Pathverse was very important to us. With our background in kinesiology, we wanted to incorporate a variety of behavior change techniques into our platform, because we know that the research says that these types of Mhealth strategies will create positive behavior change, and that was really important to us. We also want to help personalize you and your brand. So being able to have your own app with your own logo, your name, your colors, all within that app helps to personalize and build sort of your brand as a kinesiologist in this very busy Mhealth technology space. And lastly, and I'll touch more on this later on in the session today, is we want to provide expertise in building Mhealth programs, which again, I'll go into a bit more detail later on how we'll do that for you. So how Pathverse works is we have a separate website and then a separate mobile app. So you as the kin or the admin goes onto the website and you upload all your content, and there'll be previews of what that will look like on the app. And then immediately as you press save, you'll see those changes made on our app end. So we worry about the internal server, and immediately as you're dragging and dropping and copying and pasting your content, and you'll be able to see those changes real time on that app. So going into our second learning objective is we'll discuss how kinesiologists can use Pathverse to complement your practice. So here is just a rough idea of how you could create, for example, an exercise app using the Pathverse program. So we have a bit of terminology that we use on our Pathverse site. We call studies are essentially the programs where you add your content to, and within each study you have modules. Modules are essentially the lessons, and those modules are then made up with cards. So our hierarchy is study, modules, cards. And then in each module, you could have one that's about an introduction. So if it's the first module they're going to receive, and then getting into maybe the benefits of physical activities to sort of set the stage for what your client will be viewing for the rest of the study that you've created. And then within those cards, you can have text or image cards, which you can see in that little GIF rotating throughout there. You can implement videos, so whether that's an MP4 file or a YouTube link. You're also able to make the videos full screen. So say if you wanted to put in an exercise tutorial or something along those lines, you could have that take up the whole screen for your client. We also have survey cards. So if you wanted to embed a survey right into your study and then get those insights as soon as your client finishes that survey, you'd be able to do that. And one other card that we don't have up here is called a challenge card. So if you were doing more of an information-based study or an information-based program, you could reinforce knowledge later on just to ensure progress for your client. Another feature that we have is our self-monitoring page, where you're able to connect wearables to Pathverse to collect sort of that wrist or hip information and have that collected back. So Pathverse is compatible with both Apple Health and Google Fit, where you're able to collect that data. Just from that screenshot there on the screen, you can see there's MVPA really small here and steps. But then as you scroll through, you can also select different self-monitoring features that you may be interested in, like weight, waist circumference, blood pressure, and blood sugar. And lastly, we have our goal setting page. So your user is able to go in and add a goal, and is set up like SMART goals. So there's timeframes, you can set up notifications and different features to ensure that they are reaching that goal when they say they will be. So after you've added all your content into those cards and into the modules, you get to set your program logic. So we have 4 different types of logics right now. The first is completion dependent. So that would be you deliver module 1, and right after they swipe to the end of that module, module 2 will come up. Then we also have time dependent. So you can set it as a certain number of days between each of the modules. So for instance, if you did a 2-day time dependent study, you would have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday type of lesson, independent of whether or not they completed that previous lesson. Our third is a completion and time dependent. So that takes both the completion and the time dependent into consideration, where your client has to both finish the other lesson and a certain number of days need to pass in order for that next lesson to be released. And then lastly, we have our daily survey feature, which is a bit more of a sophisticated feature, where different surveys and notifications are delivered to your user at different time points in the day in order to select and collect specific insights from your clients. So next we'll demonstrate how we are using Pathverse. We'll sort of show you the admin side and then the app side, and then talk about some of our plans to add more features. So, I lost my hyperlink, but that's okay. So once you've created a Pathverse account and log in, you'll be brought immediately to your studies dashboard. So as you can see here, we've been playing around a bit with Pathverse, but each of the studies you've created will show up on your studies dashboard as soon as you log in. So the one I'm going to show you today is a bit of a mock program I made for a non-existent clinic called Active Health. There probably is a clinic that exists with that name, but for the purpose of this demonstration, it's a non-existent clinic. So once you go into the study, you're able to customize your study name. If you have a logo or if you're creating a specific program relevant to a certain demographic, you can add whichever photo is most suitable for that group. You can create a study description, which goes into this block here, and we have recommended amounts of characters for each of those features in order for it to be best displayed on the Pathverse app. And then scrolling down here again on this left-hand side is the type of module release method, which I went over previously in those slides. Then scrolling back up to the top, you can see we have an ethics document here. I understand that you're not conducting research studies, so having a physical ethics document for the programs you're creating likely won't be the case. However, from our understanding, you are held to a certain level of ethics within your BCAK membership. So just more of a thorough description of what you're using Pathverse for here should suffice to meet our terms and conditions for you to run a study through Pathverse. Underneath the ethics there is the self-monitoring tools. So it's a drop-down menu bar here where you can pick which trackers or logs you would like to use. So we have steps, MVPA, weight, self-report, which I'll show you what that looks like on the app, a blood pressure tracker, waist circumference tracker, and lastly, the blood sugar tracker. So then still on that studies page, we can see the modules added to the study. So these are our different lessons that we've added in and the associated tags with the lessons, which are a way to identify different modules within the app. So I'll go in and show the module dashboard here. So the module dashboard is set up similarly to the study dashboard, where we have an opportunity to also edit the name of your module, set the cover photo. If not, we just have this stock photo here that will appear on your app, as well as the keywords, and then the description of the specific module. And then lastly, the check-in question, which you can choose to add to essentially ask, are you ready to start? And if they say yes, they're able to go into the module, or maybe now's not the best time. They click no, and they'll be invited to start the module at a different time. Then on our right-hand side here, we have the cards. So these are all three our info cards, and I'll just show you on this health screening card what you're able to add here. So I added a hyperlink to this card. And within the hyperlink, it will take them to the link, which was a PARQ Plus form that I wanted my client to ideally fill out and email back to me prior to their first visit, just to take some of the housekeeping tasks into a mobile form. You're able to reposition where you want this media. So this applies to links, images, icons, videos, whatever you're putting onto the Pathverse app, and you're able to customize whether they go at the top, middle, or bottom. If you do select that the link contains a video, it will then change it to a preview instead of our external link stock photo. Okay, so that is going into the studies and the modules. And also you'll notice throughout we have tutorials listed, which are a good way to sort of refresh yourself on what each function of Pathverse is. So that is entirely in the studies part of our Pathverse app or website. Next, we'll get into the study participants. So on our participant dashboard, you can see the different studies or programs you have here. So if you have different demographics for different groups, you're able to add different people to different programs, and you're also able to cross-add people into different studies. So that's all within our participant side. So for example, if we go into this active health study, you're able to add who you would like to go into this program, and then set the start date that you'd like them to start. Next is our analytics tab, where you can collect the data, and a little preview into a feature we're adding soon is soon we'll have a dashboard where you can see this data readily here on your screen, so you don't have to download and analyze and go through the sort of nitpicky of data filtering when it comes to collecting participant or user data sometimes. So that is all collected there from your studies. And then of course, whichever self-monitoring tools that you choose to collect within each of your different programs or each of your different studies will be available here on this dashboard. And the last tab I'll go over is your account. It just has all your stats of how many studies you've created, the amount of modules and cards. So you can sort of look back and see how much you've used Pathverse and the progress you've made. And then lastly is the tutorial videos where all of our resources are piled in one location for you. So now I'll switch over. Sorry, I see there's some questions in the chat that we can touch on definitely later. I'm flying through these slides a bit, so we'll definitely have some time. I'm just gonna switch over now to my phone to show you what it looks like on the Pathverse app. So I've opened the app now on my phone and have already logged in to my Pathverse studies page. When your user will use it for the first time, there's a brief tutorial that comes onto the screen to explain sort of the general functions of Pathverse and what the buttons do. We've gone through a few rounds of usability testing with Pathverse, and so we've tried to make it as user-friendly as possible. But of course, if you have time later today and want to try Pathverse out, we'll have some information on that. And if anything doesn't seem as intuitive or user-friendly, we're always, of course, open to lots of feedback. So on this page here, you can see I'm enrolled in a few different studies. I'm contributing to research right now with that study. But this one is Active Health, which I just showed you on the website of things. And when I click into that study, so anywhere on that Active Health photo, I'm brought into the study dashboard. So I've already completed the first module. If I either tap or swipe over to that all modules page, you can see the tags here on the right-hand side and that I've completed the before your first visit. So going into the before your first visit, I tap onto the title or the picture of that module, and then I can see the description.
Sorry, guys, I think her internet might be cut off.
There we go. Sorry about that. So now you can see the slide that says welcome to Amaze Active Health, correct? Thank you, Henry. Thank you. So there's just an info card with some text. And again, another info card with text. And that last card is the card I showed you with a link. So when you click onto that link, you're prompted to that questionnaire, which is what I linked it to, but you're also still within the Pathverse app. So you're not jumping from app to app to encourage them to come back and complete that program after. And then once you've made it to that last slide, you're reminded to go back to the homepage to either be greeted with your next available lesson Or if you're on a time-dependent module, you'll just be told that there's no modules available at this time. And to essentially come back when there are, you'll be prompted with a notification. So then going into the self-monitoring tools, which is our second tab across the bottom, there are a bunch of trackers. So our active minutes, the user is required to put in. So if I've done 30 minutes, I can add that to my tracker of the day. And of course, if you make an error, you're able to click the undo button and try that again, because user error is likely probable. As I swipe down or scroll down onto the self-monitoring page, I'm able to track my steps, which comes right from, on my end, my Apple Health. So once I click sync, they're brought there today. And then my last tracker I did was my weight log. And so when I click the add button, I'm able to scroll up or down through all the weights, and then I can save it. And then eventually over time, as the client or user adds more and more weight, they're able to see their trends. And then over time, once I click that calendar button, you're also able to see those trends for 30, 90, or 365. So that's the trackers page. We've differentiated some trackers from what we call our exercise log. So the exercise log is a more detailed version of your exercise bouts. So rather than just, I completed 6,000 steps on my 2-hour walk, or this many minutes. The exercise log is a bit more in depth. So I can say I did some interval training, for example, and I can click next. And then you're able to differentiate whether it was a high intensity interval training or just a moderate intensity continuous training. So for this example, it was a high intensity. I could select my interval, the number of seconds, how many minutes it lasted for, and then how much I enjoyed it. And then lastly, more of an RPE scale of how that activity went. And then you're invited to write a comment about how it went. So good. And to save that there. The only difference, if I were to have done an activity that was moderate intensity, I wouldn't have had the option to add in how many intervals it was. It would have just been the minutes that I worked. So that is our self-monitoring page there. Lastly, we have our goal setting page. So I'm able to go onto my goal setting page and click add a goal. As I mentioned earlier, you're able to set a due date for either today or into the future. You can set when you want to get a notification for that goal, and then whether it's a low, medium, or high priority. And then there's 140 characters within our goal setting spot to add that goal. So all of the current active goals are on that first screen. So this is set up similar to our modules screen or our lessons screen. And then any of my past goals would be listed there as like an archive or a journal of essentially my past achievements. So those are the 3 main pages of the Pathverse app that your user will see. I'll just hop back now to my other screen. So to sort of summarize what I showed you on both our admin end and our app end, is our main features are content delivery. So whether that's information cards with text, images, videos, survey cards, where we're able to do multiple choice, text box surveys, emoji slider surveys, scales, any of the sorts of sort of generic survey where you're able to collect information from the user. and quiz cards, again, to reinforce knowledge that we've delivered in information cards. And as of right now, that content is delivered in a linear fashion. So whether it's completion or time dependent, those modules are showing up one after another. Second is our self-monitoring tools, where again, we're able to connect to Apple Health or Google Fit, and then a lot of those self-report trackers and tools as well. And then on our goal setting page, we have the ability for the app user to set their own personal goals. And lastly, we're just finishing up some UI changes right now, some user interface changes, but we'll have that chat feature soon where we're able to have sort of that kin to client, admin to user communication through the Pathverse app. So launching soon, we have non-linear content delivery. So what our sort of vision is with this non-linear delivery is that we'll have some sort of, we'll call it an analytic engine that decides which lesson the user needs at a certain time. So if we have an activity-based module that we can trigger for that module to release if a user has done more than 5,000 steps every day for the past 3 days, they'll get a module more talking about exercise identity. Whereas if they're getting less than 5,000 steps for the same instance, the past 3 days, they'll maybe get a lesson more directed to the benefits of physical activity or how to find time to add physical activity in their life. A bit more broad than that physical activity example would be looking at usage data. So if you have a very keen client that's going through and doing all their lessons when they come available, they've used their app more than 5 times in the past 5 days, they'll get a tailored a tailored lesson to them. Whereas the person that maybe hasn't used the app so much, so they've used it less than 5 times within that same time frame, would have maybe a different style lesson coming to their phone. So essentially just being able to be a bit more personalized on a client by client basis, but having still that preset content available for you to deliver to your user. Next, and what I touched on a bit earlier, is having that data download or data dashboard feature where you're able to see the insights from those self-monitoring tools as soon as you're onto that Pathverse page, which will just add another level of sort of insight into what your client is completing on their own. Our next feature that we're looking forward to launching soon is having preset goals for the admin to set for the user. So you'd be able to go in essentially to that goal setting page and set that goal if maybe your client needs a bit more support in setting and reaching their goals. And lastly, we're looking into launching some exercise resources. So we want to create Pathverse as a central hub to have a bunch of resources, health content, and just further training to help people stay as current as possible with what's happening in mobile health. So having a portal or a community of exercise resources that people can use to embed into their programs is an avenue that we're really excited to be going down soon. Henry, if you want to talk about some security information.
Yeah, thank you. So since we deal with a lot of users, and a lot of user-sensitive information, so protecting that data and achieving scalability is our top priority. So what we do to achieve this is we use, for all of our health or any kind of sensitive data, we use industry standard AES 256 encryption. So all of your and the participants' data are fully secured. And all of our services are also hosted on cloud computing, so AWS, where we can easily, based on the need or the demand of the apps, we can easily scale it up and ensure that it's always available. And finally, a lot of data is being transferred between our app, the admin portal, and the server. So we use the industry standard SSL layer certificates to make sure that all of this data is secured during the transport, and no one can basically eavesdrop between any of these transfers. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Henry. So to sort of summarize today and bring us to the bottom line of what we do at Pathverse and why we would like to work with you in this mobile health space is that we want to be able to provide this app development platform for you to leverage the increasing trends of mobile health technology. And with that, we want to offer both free and premium levels. So with everything I've showed you today is with our free service that everyone's welcome to sign into and create their own study or program. Next, we want to build customized software features. So working on personalizing your brand and who you are in this mobile health space, whether that looks like building a native app where your clinic name or your name is on the app, or just within Pathverse, we want to be able to sort of have the skeleton for you to build up from there in order to customize and tailor your programs as much as you would like to do. We also offer Mhealth content consultations. So again, we are built out of a research lab where we study digital health and mobile health trends. So just staying on what's most current in this space is very valuable and important to us. And we want to be able for you in this space to be able to complement those in-person practices and be able to use this mobile health space as efficiently as possible. And lastly, something we're looking to implement is a mobile app design workshop for health professionals. So what that would look like is a half-day workshop where we sort of teach you the Mhealth trends and what's best and needed in Mhealth at this time, and then some of the principles, again, to deliver successful Mhealth programs, looking at behavior change and what sort of that research is saying, and then give you the opportunity to make your own program and for us to provide feedback to you on how to best use Pathverse and all of the services that we offer within our platform. I guess before we get into the survey, we can go through the questions. Does that make sense? Is it best if we go through the Q&A or the chat first?
Let's do, we have a couple of questions. I think we can just do all of them together. It's not too many.
Okay.
So the very first one, Alfred asked us if you can tell us about more wearables. So are they limited to only Apple and native Google? What about Garmin, Fitbit, and Whoop, which are also popular? So to answer this, yeah, right now we only support with Google and Apple Health, but we're planning, currently working on Fitbit, and we're also planning on adding Garmin and other ones. They're all in our development pipeline. So we'll have them in about a few months.
And just to add on to that, I know with Fitbit and I believe with Garmin, you can actually cross-correspond the apps within your phone. So my Fitbit stats would go to my Apple Health and then would be able to be displayed on Pathverse right now. It's just more of the specific nitty-gritties that we don't support. So something like sleep data that comes from those apps that we're not yet compatible with.
Yeah. And then the second question is for the surveys, how can we vary the frequency of those surveys, daily, every second day, and weekly? So I can answer that. So if you choose the daily diary release method for the studies, you can essentially like specify every single survey. So you can say by minutes. So you can say the first survey shows up at 9:01, and then the second shows up at 9:02, and so on. So as many as you want in the daily diary release method. Let's see. And so can this be used? Oh, we got a question from Charlotte. Can this be used to track appointments and recovery? or is this for more running a study or research? I'm not really sure what tracking appointments and recovery is. Amanda, do you?
Yeah, so how I can picture this working into Pathverse is that instead of having maybe information content in a module or in a lesson, it can be a notification for an appointment. So the content within that lesson could be, hi, you have an appointment. It's at, say, this time, if you have a specific program for the client, and then maybe some parking information or what they need to bring as a reminder within each lesson. So instead of maybe creating more of that intervention style of a program, it can be used as like almost an accountability or that second resource to have what to bring, where to park, what we covered last time within that module.
Okay. There's one more question from Kristen. So she's asking if we can elaborate on the difference between the premium and the free level. Yeah, so right now, all of our features are available in the free version. So as long as you log in, you can access all of our features. The only difference is we have so the number of participants you enroll and the number of studies you enroll. So for the free version, you can do one study, and I think there's no limit on the number of modules you can do, and there's a limit of about up to 100 participants, because as the number of participants increase, the load on our server increases. So we're just hoping to share the cost a little bit. Other than that, you should be able to access all the features on our platform for free.
And then if there are any other features that you would want added, then we do those on a quote by quote sort of basis. So we want to have this platform to be as accessible as possible, but just where it comes in with server overload, we also want every user to have the best experience possible. So just sort of leveraging server load versus what we can offer at the free level.
Okay, looks like we have another question from Matthew. Can you set up predefined programs where the user does not have to type in the exercise each time and check off a checkbox? And can you set up timers for these exercises?
Yeah, so how the timers I can imagine working is within the module, you can set a timer video card. So that timer would start when they start the module, when they're ready to start that exercise. And then it will essentially run as they do that exercise. And in terms of predefined programs, where they don't just type in the exercise each time, that sounds like that could be used with our upcoming goal feature, where the admin actually goes in to set that goal, where they would just have to check off that they've completed that goal and not have to do that sort of goal setting or exercise planning on their own end.
And finally, tracking exercise should be modified to track appointments based on, sorry, that was an answer from the previous question. I think that's all of the questions we have at the moment.
Oh, there we go.
Did anyone just play Gamify?
Yes, we are big onto the gamification. So as we sort of build up our repertoire of those exercises and how we want that to look, we're definitely going to add some gamification elements to encourage, that user engagement. We've played around with the idea of trophy cases and different sort of achievements to unlock and have to essentially encourage that engagement and that joy that comes with the gamification of activity.
And then we got a response. Okay.
Awesome. As we have a bit of time now, we just have a follow-up survey that we are curious to get your insight on. If you can scan that there, or maybe I can put the link in the chat as well. Yes, Charlotte, that's correct. So Pathverse would essentially take care of that like remote or out of clinic experience there. And then from your end, you'd be able to collect those insights of whether or not they're completing the module or completing a survey within the module, just to sort of know where they're at on their own.
Amanda, I believe you have to change who you're sending the link to. So if you just send it to everyone, so everyone can have that link.
Oh. Thank you.
Perfect.
Did that work?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Still learning things about Zoom.
Also, just to add on, in the meantime, if anyone you guys have any ideas or suggestions of features or something that you would like to see on Pathverse, or something that you would like to see or like to use, please feel free to let us know. And we're always looking to help improve our platform and make it easy for everybody.
Yes. Did everyone scan the QR code, or I guess you could grab the link from the chat? So here is our different socials and our website where you can find our email to send us a message or sign up for an account. So if anyone's interested in trying out the Pathverse app, I'll just move forward to this next slide here. You're able to download it in the Apple iOS App Store or the Google Play Store. And you can log into this account here in order to try out that Active Health Pathverse program and play around with the different features on there.
Contact info. Just answering some questions from the chat.
We also got a question about, is the premium affordable for a sole practitioner?
So right now we charge about, so if you have over 200 or 100 participants, we charge about 150 a month. And if you have over 500 or more, we can discuss like some kind of quote. If you think this is not very affordable or something, we can always discuss and figure out a way of method that works for you and your team or
The half-day demo would be a free workshop that we would offer. Once we sort of gauge the interest on that, we can see when works best for everyone. And with that, if you're not able to attend, we would have a webinar sort of recording that could come back later on.
Looks like BC will. Oh yeah, so we'll have all of our, just to add on, we'll have all of our contact info and our websites and everything along with this recording at the end of this seminar. So based on the usage, when there are a lot of users, the server cost kind of scales up. So that's why it does actually increase our costs a lot based on the number of users. If you have less than 100 participants or users using the platform at the same time, it's relatively easier to handle on the load. But if you think the 150 a month is a little bit too much, we can definitely discuss and see how we can make this work for you. For Sean. See.
Yep, so it looks like we've finished a little early, so we'll wrap up there. Thank you to Amanda and Henry for the presentation. And thank you to everyone who attended and participated.
Yep. Thank you everyone for attending.
Yeah, thanks everyone. We look forward to reading those survey responses and hopefully working with you soon.